Action movies have showcased countless tough guy cars, but few have sparked as much debate, fascination, and confusion as Cobra's sinister 1950 Mercury. Some fans insist it's one of the greatest custom movie cars ever built, while others argue its legend has been exaggerated for decades. Its origins, modifications, and behind-the-scenes history raise questions that challenge what people think they know about iconic film vehicles. From disputed ownership to unusual fabrication methods and long-standing rumors surrounding its fate, this Mercury carries an aura that refuses to fade. What's certain is that its story is far stranger, deeper, and more complicated than most viewers ever realized. A Hollywood legend built 4 cars. The iconic custom 1950 Mercury used in the movie Cobra owes its existence to the renowned late movie car builder Eddie Paul from El Segundo, California. Paul was hired by the producer to build 4 cars for the 1985 film, a task that highlights just how integral this vehicle was to the story. Building a single custom lead sled is a significant challenge, but fabricating 4 identical copies requires a massive level of dedication and technical precision. This fleet approach ensured that the production team had a specific car for every situation, allowing them to switch between the glossy close-ups of the hero car and the rugged stunt versions destined for highway destruction without the audience noticing. The expertise of Eddie Paul ensured that each Cobra sled shared the same menacing look and performance characteristics required to serve as Sylvester Stallone's partner in crime fighting. It is rare for a production to commission such a specific quartet of highly customized classics, rather than just using off-the-shelf vehicles or cheap mock-ups. This strategy proves that the Mercury was never intended to be mere background scenery, but was built from the ground up to survive the chaotic demands of 1980s action cinema as a central character. The sheer effort to replicate this chopped-top classic 4 times over remains a testament to the practical effects era of filmmaking. Production totaled 1 custom Mercury. Of the original 4 custom 1950 Mercury coupes built for the production, the filming process claimed a significant casualty. 1 was totaled, leaving the remaining vehicles as the only 3 left in existence today. This high rate of attrition reveals the incredibly destructive nature of the stunts designed for the film, where even painstakingly constructed vehicles were viewed as disposable tools for achieving the right visual impact. Unlike modern productions that often rely on digital effects for the total destruction of a hero vehicle, this era required the actual sacrifice of the machine to sell the realism of the scene. The fact that a fully customized lead sled was written off as a total loss demonstrates the rigorous and unforgiving conditions of the set. Creating these cars involved complex modifications, from the chopped rooflines to the specific bodywork, making the decision to destroy one a costly and bold move. It highlights that the stunt team did not hold back during the high-speed sequences, pushing the mechanical limits of the fleet until one simply could not be repaired. The survival of the remaining 3 cars becomes even more impressive when you consider that their sibling was completely wrecked in the line of duty. 1 hero car for close-ups. Dean Bryant was commissioned to build 4 of the Mercury sleds for the film, but the assignment came with a very specific distinction in roles. 1 single car was fabricated strictly for normal driving conditions and interior shots, while the other 3 were designated as stunt cars. This separation was crucial because the production team could not afford to have the primary vehicle damaged during the filming of dangerous sequences. While the stunt versions were built to handle the brunt of the physical abuse, the hero car had to remain in pristine condition for the camera. This strategy ensured that whenever the script called for a close-up or a quiet moment inside the cabin, the car looked flawless. It is a testament to the practical needs of filmmaking, where maintaining visual continuity is just as important as the stunts themselves. If the hero car had been subjected to even a fraction of the rough driving the others endured, it would have been impossible to match the shots later in the editing room. The audience perceives a single rugged machine battling through the city, but in reality there was a protected showpiece kept safe from the chaos. This specific Mercury was essentially the face of the operation, preserving the sleek, custom aesthetic while its 3 mechanical siblings did the dirty work. 600 horsepower nitrous beast. The 1950 Mercury OCM custom used in the production was transformed from a mild-mannered classic into an absolute performance monster. While standard movie cars often rely on sound effects to seem fast, this vehicle was equipped with a 350 cubic inch engine, augmented by a blower and a nitrous oxide system. This formidable combination allowed the engine to produce an output exceeding 600 horsepower. Moving a heavy, chopped-top lead sled requires serious torque, and this setup ensured the car had the thrust necessary to compete with modern vehicles on screen. The decision to install both a supercharger and a nitrous system represents a level of mechanical overkill rarely seen in prop vehicles. Usually, a production might choose one power adder or simply use a standard crate engine to keep costs low, but this build went for maximum aggression. This immense power was essential for justifying the incredible high-speed maneuvers required for the role, proving that the menacing look was backed up by genuine performance. It turns the Mercury into a sleeper of sorts, a vintage aesthetic hiding a powertrain capable of embarrassing sports cars of that era. The fact that this hero car was built to generate such extreme horsepower numbers speaks to the authenticity the builders aimed for, ensuring that when the throttle was pinned, the reaction on camera was real. Custom scoops for aggressive look. The cars were chopped for the film and fitted with roll bars in some instances, as well as receiving a double-scooped hood for a tougher, more aggressive look. The modification process for the Cobra Mercury went far beyond the standard expectations of a classic lead sled build. While chopping the roofline is a traditional technique used to lower the profile and enhance the sleekness of a 1950s coupe, the builders took the design in a decidedly more hostile direction by altering the front end. They installed a prominent double-scooped hood, a feature more commonly associated with high-performance muscle cars than smooth, flowing customs. This specific design choice was intended to give the vehicle a visual edge that matched the gritty tone of the film. Combining a vintage silhouette with such overt performance styling created a unique hybrid that looked ready for combat rather than just cruising. It signaled to the audience that there was something powerful lurking underneath the metal, breaking the rules of traditional customizing, which usually favors smooth lines over aggressive intakes. Additionally, the inclusion of roll bars in the stunt versions reinforced the idea that function was just as important as form. This mix of aesthetic aggression and safety reinforcement transformed a luxury-oriented Mercury into a futuristic retro muscle car. It resulted in a machine that felt dangerous even when it was standing still, perfectly mirroring the intense demeanor of the character behind the wheel. Nitrous-powered, impossible reverse chase. The 1950 Mercury used in the production was equipped with nitrous that boosts its performance to do seemingly impossible things. While many action movies rely solely on camera tricks to fake agility, this vehicle needed to sell the idea that it could practically defy physics on the pavement. At one notable point, the car is maneuvered into a high-speed 180-degree spin that translates into a high-speed chase in reverse. Performing such a precise and demanding maneuver in a heavy vintage American coupe is an incredible display of stunt coordination that contradicts the natural handling of the vehicle. Typically, a car of this vintage is known for its substantial weight and boat-like handling, designed primarily for slow and low cruising rather than gymkhana-style acrobatics. The fact that the script called for the car to spin around and immediately drive backward at highway speeds required a powertrain setup capable of handling extreme stress. The nitrous oxide system played a key role here, as it provided the immediate burst of power necessary to make these rapid directional changes feel plausible within the movie's heightened reality. This capability highlights the distinct difference between a standard classic restoration and a dedicated movie stunt vehicle. The engineers had to ensure that the heavy chassis could respond instantly to the driver's inputs, effectively transforming a lumbering luxury car into a nimble, tactical weapon. It remains one of the most memorable examples of how performance modifications were used to justify the superhuman abilities of the hero's vehicle. Soundtrack masked slow drift speeds. Observers have pointed out that a lot of the scenes where the car is sliding sideways or accelerating down a sidewalk display a distinct mismatch between the aggressive roar heard in the soundtrack and the relatively slow speed the vehicle is actually traveling. This discrepancy reveals a fascinating constraint of practical stunt work involving vintage steel. There is clearly a limit to how quickly you can drift a near 2-ton car from the 1950s, regardless of how much horsepower you stuff under the hood. The Mercury is a substantial vehicle, often referred to as a lead sled for good reason, and the physics of swinging that much weight around a corner simply cannot be rushed. While the engine notes scream high-octane aggression, the visual reality shows the car fighting against its own mass to break traction and slide. The editors likely used the intense audio track to compensate for the vehicle's lethargic physical movements, bridging the gap between the car's heavy handling and the scene's kinetic energy. It serves as a reminder that while you can modify an engine for modern performance, you cannot easily erase the handling characteristics of a heavy, mid-century chassis. The result is a sequence where the auditory cues convince the audience of speed that the car itself could not physically achieve on the pavement, proving that sound design is just as critical as the stunt driving itself. Original coupe cost $2,000. When the car was new, the standard coupe cost just under $2,000, and the V8 had a displacement of 4.2 liters, with a heady 110 horsepower. This pricing places the Mercury in a fascinating historical context, revealing it as an accessible vehicle for the average post-war family, rather than an exclusive performance machine. Back in 1950, this was a stylish but sensible purchase, offering a smooth ride and a reliable, albeit modest, 8-cylinder engine. The gap between this original factory specification and the movie version is absolute. While the original flathead V8 was iconic in its own right, 110 horsepower is a mere fraction of the output demanded by 1980s action sequences. It essentially means the filmmakers took a comfortable, budget-friendly cruiser and forced it to evolve into a fire-breathing monster, capable of nearly 6 times its original power output. The financial contrast is just as stark, transforming a car that originally cost less than a modern high-end laptop into a priceless piece of cinema history. This radical shift emphasizes that the car's tough reputation was built by hot rodders and movie builders over decades, rather than being an inherent trait of the car when it first rolled off the assembly line. It serves as a perfect example of how automotive culture can repurpose a humble, mass-produced object into a singular icon of aggression and speed, completely rewriting its original purpose. Nicknamed the lead sled. These cars, when modified, are commonly called lead sleds because they are heavy, like lead. In particular, 1949 to 1951 Ford and Mercury classic cars were often designated as lead sleds or even shoeboxes for their shape. This famous nickname is surprisingly literal, rooting itself in both the substantial factory weight of the vehicle and the old-school methods used to customize them. In the golden age of hot rodding, before modern plastic body fillers existed, builders used actual molten lead to fill body seams and smooth out the metalwork after chopping the roof. This process added significant mass to a car that was already built like a tank. Understanding this heavyweight status is crucial to appreciating the engineering behind the movie car. The Mercury was never designed to be a nimble corner carver. It was a cruiser with immense physical presence. This inherent heaviness explains why the production team had to go to such extremes with the engine modifications. A standard engine would struggle to make the car look fast on camera, so the addition of a blower and nitrous was a practical necessity to overcome the sheer inertia of the chassis. The term serves as a reminder that while the car looks sleek and aerodynamic, it is actually a massive slab of American steel, requiring immense power to push it beyond its cruising comfort zone into the realm of action hero performance. Low compression V8 design. The 1950 Mercury's compression ratio is exactly 6.8 to 1. This specific technical figure was central to what the manufacturer originally touted as their high-power engine design. For those uninitiated in engine mechanics, the compression ratio compares the volume of the cylinder when the piston is at the bottom of its stroke versus the small space remaining when it reaches the top. This ratio dictates how tightly the fuel and air mixture is squeezed before ignition, which is a primary factor in generating power and efficiency. In the modern automotive world, a ratio of 6.8 to 1 is surprisingly low. Most contemporary economy cars operate at ratios of 10 to 1 or higher, while high-performance engines push the limits even further. This conservative specification reveals that the original engineering prioritized smooth operation and the ability to run on the lower octane fuel available in the post-war era, rather than raw horsepower. It provides a stark contrast to the movie car, as a stock engine with such low compression would feel incredibly lazy by modern standards. This fundamental mechanical limitation confirms that the movie builders had no choice but to abandon the stock architecture entirely. To get the explosive acceleration needed for the film, they had to move away from this relaxed factory standard to a high compression setup, capable of utilizing forced induction and nitrous oxide. Runs perfectly on cheap gas. The 1950 Mercury engine's design worked out so that there is no need to use high-test gasolines. You can climb steep hills or accelerate suddenly without pinging. This specific engineering feat highlights a major difference between the consumer priorities of the mid-century auto market and the high-performance demands we see today. In 1950, high-test or premium fuel was an added expense that many drivers wanted to avoid. Mercury engineers recognized this and specifically tuned their flathead V8 to operate smoothly on the cheaper, standard-grade fuel available at every service station across America. For a car enthusiast, this is a fascinating technical achievement because engines marketed as high power usually demand higher octane to prevent pre-ignition. However, the Mercury managed to balance its compression and timing to digest regular gas without complaining. This meant a driver could aggressively stomp on the accelerator to pass another car, or lug the heavy chassis up a steep incline without hearing that dreaded metallic rattle known as pinging. Pinging is the distinct sound of fuel detonating prematurely in the cylinder, a chaotic reaction that can destroy an engine over time. By eliminating this risk on standard fuel, Mercury offered a blend of performance and economy that was highly advanced for its time. It presents an ironic contrast to the movie version of the car, which, with its added supercharger and nitrous oxide, would likely destroy itself instantly if fed anything less than the highest octane race fuel. Ultra-fast, cold engine start. The 1950 Mercury was equipped with a dual concentric type economizer carburetor, a sophisticated fuel delivery system for its time. This carburetor was designed to maintain efficiency and reliable performance across all engine speeds, road angles, and temperatures. One of its most remarkable features was its ability to start the engine in less than 2 seconds, even when the temperature dropped to 0 degrees. For a 1950s vehicle, achieving such rapid cold weather starting was a significant engineering accomplishment, ensuring that owners could depend on their Mercury to start quickly in harsh conditions without complicated procedures or excessive cranking. The carburetor achieved this performance through careful design. Fuel was circulated around the intake chamber to maintain optimal temperature and prevent issues like vapor lock or poor cold starts, while an automatic choke regulated fuel delivery for immediate ignition. These innovations allowed the engine to operate efficiently and reliably under a variety of real-world conditions, reflecting Mercury's commitment to practical, driver-friendly engineering. In comparison, modern engines with electronic fuel injection can start quickly in cold weather, but accomplishing this feat mechanically in 1950 highlights the technical sophistication of the Mercury's design. This level of attention to functionality demonstrates that the Mercury was built not just for style and comfort, but also for dependable, everyday usability, capable of delivering immediate performance regardless of climate. Design quirks attracted custom builders. Other cars from Cadillac, Oldsmobile, Hudson, and even Ford were more modern in design. But it was actually the 1949 Merc's aesthetic quirks that made it so appealing to customizers. This historical twist reveals that the Mercury became an icon, not because it was perfect, but specifically because it was flawed. When it rolled off the assembly line, the car featured a split windshield and a heavy slab-sided body that critics considered slightly outdated compared to the sleeker, more futuristic options from rivals like Hudson or Cadillac. However, these perceived styling deficiencies are exactly what drew the Barris brothers and other legendary builders to the platform. The car effectively served as a blank automotive canvas. Because the design felt slightly frumpy and unfinished, it practically begged for bodywork to bring out its potential. If the car had been styled perfectly by the factory, there would have been little reason to cut it up. Furthermore, the Mercury retained older structural elements that made it significantly easier to chop and modify compared to the complex, modern unit body designs of its competitors. Customizers looked at that thick metal body and saw an opportunity to smooth out the lines and lower the roof without ruining the car's structural integrity. This paradox defines the lead sled era. The Mercury wasn't the most advanced car of its day, but its specific combination of heavy curves and aesthetic gaps made it the perfect candidate for a torch-wielding artist to transform into a masterpiece. Magazines fueled custom shop growth. Magazines such as Hot Rod, Hop Up, and Motor Trend caught on to the growing customizing trend and featured the coolest rods and customs. This led to more business for existing shops and the emergence of new ones. The rise of the chopped Mercury was not just a mechanical evolution. It was a media-driven phenomenon that forever changed the automotive landscape. In an era long before social media or the internet, these publications served as the vital nervous system of car culture, spreading trends from the streets of California to the rest of the nation. When these magazines chose to spotlight the sleek lines of a modified Mercury, they effectively validated the entire custom scene. This exposure did more than just sell magazines. It turned the hobby into a viable, booming industry. Established builders saw their client lists explode, while a new generation of fabricators opened their own doors to meet the surging demand. The Mercury became the visual anchor of this movement, appearing on covers and in detailed features that taught readers what was possible with a torch and some lead. This relationship between the press and the builders created a feedback loop where the cars got wilder and the coverage got more intense. It is a powerful reminder that the legendary status of the lead sled was built as much on glossy paper as it was on asphalt, transforming local metalworkers into national icons. Sam Barris chopped first Mercury. The first known 1949 Merc to be chopped was Sam Barris' car done at the Barris shop in 1950. This singular event serves as the true genesis for the entire lead sled phenomenon. Every time you see that signature low roofline, including the one on the Cobra movie car, you are looking at a direct homage to this specific moment in history. It is remarkable to think that this iconic style did not originate in a corporate design studio, but rather in a garage where Sam Barris decided to take a torch to his own personal vehicle. He was not building this initial prototype for a paying client. He was experimenting on his own dime, establishing the aesthetic template that would eventually dominate the custom world. By slicing the pillars and dropping the roof, he proved that the somewhat bulky, slab-sided lines of the Mercury could be transformed into something sleek, aerodynamic, and dangerous. This act cemented the 1949 to 1951 models as the ultimate custom cars, giving them a legendary status equivalent to what the 1932 Ford is to hot rods. The movie car used by Cobretti is essentially a spiritual successor to Sam's original vision, proving that the design is timeless. It is the origin story of a subculture, traced back to one man and his willingness to cut up a nearly new car to achieve the perfect look. Stallone personally owned the Mercury. The Mercury was custom built for Sylvester Stallone's character in the film, and Sly ended up as the owner. This specific detail elevates the vehicle far above the status of a standard movie prop. Typically, once a production wraps, the vehicles are viewed as disposable assets. They are often leased, auctioned off to the highest bidder, or simply scrapped after being destroyed during stunt work. However, in this case, the lead actor developed such a strong connection with the machine that he claimed it for his personal collection. This decision speaks volumes about the quality of the customization. If the Mercury had been a hastily assembled prop held together by tape and camera angles, it is unlikely a star like Stallone would want it in his garage. Instead, it was a legitimate high-performance custom that he genuinely admired. By retaining ownership, Stallone transitioned the car from a fictional tool of Lieutenant Cobretti into a tangible piece of Hollywood history. This act of preservation is what allowed the car to survive the decades with such a prestigious pedigree. It confirms that the intimidating presence of the car was not just acting, it was a machine that commanded respect even after the director yelled cut. The fact that the hero car went home with the hero proves it was truly one of a kind. Stolen car missing 17 years. After 17 years apart, Sylvester Stallone will finally be reunited with the legendary classic car featured in his movie Cobra after it was stolen out of his garage back in 1994. This real-life plot twist is perhaps even more dramatic than the film itself. The iconic lead sled didn't just fade away. It was taken directly from the actor's private collection, sparking a nearly 2-decade-long mystery. For a vehicle this distinct to vanish for 17 years is almost unheard of in the automotive world. We are talking about a highly modified, chopped-top Mercury with a unique history, not a common commuter car that blends into traffic. The fact that thieves managed to keep such a high-profile machine hidden for so long suggests a calculated effort to conceal it from the public eye. During this time, the car became a sort of automotive ghost, existing only in rumors and old film reels, while the police and Stallone himself were left with empty hands. The sheer duration of this disappearance adds a gritty layer of authenticity to the car's history. It survived the stunts of the movie set only to survive the criminal underworld of real life. When the news finally broke that the car had been located and would be returned, it closed a massive gap in the vehicle's provenance. This saga proves that the Cobra Mercury is a survivor in every sense of the word, enduring both scripted destruction and real-world felony theft before finding its way back home. Value estimated over $250,000. Stallone and the company reached a settlement under which Sly will regain ownership of the whip, estimated to be worth more than $250,000. This six-figure valuation places the Cobra Mercury into a stratosphere far above your average classic car restoration. While a standard chopped 1950 Mercury is certainly a desirable and valuable collector's item, this specific price tag reflects the powerful multiplier effect of Hollywood provenance. The car sits at a unique intersection of expert craftsmanship and pop culture history. When you look at that number, you realize you are paying for the aggressive roof chop, the nitrous-fed engine, and the custom bodywork. But you are primarily paying for the fact that Sylvester Stallone sat in the driver's seat during some of the most intense action sequences of the 1980s. This $250,000 estimate explains exactly why the legal battle to recover the vehicle was so intense after its 17-year disappearance. It was not merely a sentimental quest to recover a lost memory. It was a fight for a significant financial asset. The valuation confirms that the market views this machine as a singular piece of art, rather than just old metal. It transforms the vehicle from a simple prop into a blue-chip investment, proving that the right role in the right movie can turn a vintage commercial coupe into a treasure worth more than many modern supercars. The high value is derived from its documented history as the hero car, distinct from the disposable stunt doubles destroyed during production, making it an irreplaceable artifact of cinema. License plate read Awesome 50. This car just shouts badass, and the license plate says it all, Awesome 50. When filmmakers build a hero car for a major action star, every square inch of the vehicle is scrutinized to ensure it matches the protagonist's intense personality. For Lieutenant Cobretti, the production team decided against a standard anonymous government plate in favor of a vanity tag that served as a bold declaration of intent. The plate read Awesome 50, a phrase that perfectly encapsulates the movie's unique blend of eras. The spelling of awesome reflects the specific pop culture slang and attitude of the mid-1980s, while the number 50 grounds the machine in its true historical origin as a 1950 model. This choice essentially allows the car to introduce itself to the audience before the engine even roars to life. It functions as a deliberate piece of character building, signaling that the vehicle is not merely a tool for transportation, but a distinct entity with its own aggressive swagger. A standard license plate might have allowed the car to blend into the background of the city, but this custom tag ensures that the Mercury stands out as a unique, intimidating presence. It confirms that the car was designed to be a showpiece, embracing its identity as a modernized classic that demands attention on the streets. This small detail acts as a finishing touch, proving that the car's tough persona was curated down to the very last bolt. Flipped surround created smooth opening. Creating the signature smooth face of a top-tier custom Mercury requires far more than just swapping out a few bolts. It involves a level of metal fabrication that borders on artistic surgery. To achieve a new, smaller, and perfectly smooth grille opening, expert builders utilized a fascinating technique involving a donor part from a second vehicle. The process required taking a grille surround from another Mercury and flipping it upside down before integrating it into the body. This inverted piece was then seamlessly molded to the splash pan, the lower metal section of the front end, to eliminate any rough transitions or factory gaps. The ingenuity here lies in recognizing that the geometry of the original trim, when inverted, provided the exact curve needed to shrink the grille opening while maintaining a factory-style finish. This method allowed customizers to blend the upper and lower sections of the nose into a single flowing shape that the original manufacturers never envisioned. By welding this upside-down surround to the molded-in splash pan, the fabricators removed the busy, multi-piece look of the stock front end, replacing it with a sleek, unified intake often fitted with a Chrysler bar. It serves as a prime example of the resourcefulness found in the lead sled community, where builders would cut, flip, and weld expensive sheet metal until the lines flowed perfectly. From its humble beginnings as a sub-$2,000 family cruiser to becoming a 600 horsepower, nitrous-injected movie icon, The Cobra Mercury is a masterclass in automotive transformation. It is rare enough to find a car built to handle a high-speed reverse chase on screen, but it is even wilder to think that the hero car survived a real-life 17-year theft to reunite with Sylvester Stallone himself. Whether it was the engineering ingenuity of flipping a grille upside down for that perfect look, or the sheer brutality of destroying a fully custom lead sled for a single stunt, this machine earned its spot in history. It wasn't just a prop. It was a character that lived, died, and literally came back from the dead, proving once and for all that it truly is Awesome 50.